I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. We got about 1 minute left, folks. So if there are some empty seats, staff, please feel free to grab any one of those. Not quite yet. Almost. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for joining us here today for this monumental, this historic day in Seattle Kraken history. We're taking another big step in the process toward our inaugural season, which will commence this October. I want to welcome all the media members who are here today, both in person as well as on Zoom. And I also want to take a chance to thank all of our fans, both Kraken fans, hockey fans, all around the hockey world for tuning in to today's festivities. To kick this off, I'd like to welcome Kraken CEO Todd Lewicki.
Softy, do we need to take a 30-second break here to get a commercial in? 5 minutes? Very good. Welcome, everyone. And on behalf of David Bonderman, our owners, welcome to what is a historic press conference. A long time coming, a lot of work to get to this point. We have just been on an incredible journey, an episodic journey that took us from the improbable to the probable. And I want to call out my brother Tim, right back here. And without his vision and Francesca Bodie's guile, I wouldn't be here, and none of us would be here. So I say that with some emotion in my voice, but I'm so happy my brother came up today. And Francesca, where are you, dear? Thank you for being here. So Tim started all this, and what he started was really an amazing journey and the unleashing of unprecedented passion by fans. We celebrate March 1st every year as a company holiday in honor of 32,000 depositors getting behind this team in 2018. And let us never forget, it was those fans who really gave life to this dream. But after that, that really did become the wind in the sails. And from there, we're just about finished building what I believe will be the most beautiful arena in the whole world. And from there, we sometimes call it Junior Varsity, our training center project. Just about 6 miles north of the arena, right up the road, we think best in class. And again, an incredible commitment by our owners. Dave Wright is here, he's our vice chair. The Ackerley family, they got behind us and they believed in this dream. A GM, but others. We have staff here, Victor DeBonis, my partner, who's our chief operating officer. But as we kept dreaming, the dream kept getting better and bigger. So when it came time to GM, we kept dreaming big. So this guy's going to come up next. He played in over 1,700 NHL games. He's number 2 in the history of the NHL in assists. He captained 4 teams. Member of the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2007. He won the Cup twice, and he led this search. Ron is many things, but for sure, he's diligent, he's detailed, he's thoughtful, and he's thorough. And that's what this search was. And it was a beautiful thing to witness. And I am so proud of where we came out, and I am so excited for the future. Ron Francis.
Thank you. It's been a crazy past year and a half, so I'm actually really excited to be in a room full of people. So I really appreciate everybody taking the time to be here today and be a part of this. It's an exciting day for the Seattle Kraken franchise. We're going to announce today our first ever franchise head coach. I think anytime there's a head coaching position open, there's a lot of interest, but I'd like to think that this one maybe generated a little bit more than normal. And some of that has to do on some of the things Todd talked about. I think it starts at the top. Our ownership group has been fantastic. As he mentioned, some are here today. That group's led by Mr. David Bonderman. And, we have a directive not only to build a good hockey team, but to also be active and a part of our community. And I think that has led Todd to coming up with some really cool initiatives and doing some really different things that maybe aren't done around the National Hockey League, and things that we're proud of as an organization to be active in the community. So I think that adds interest from the outside. You look at the facilities we're building, the Climate Pledge Arena and our practice facility are going to be two absolutely state-of-the-art facilities that are going to allow our players, to reach peak performance, which is what every player wants to do, right? They want to have that opportunity. And then we haven't played a game yet, but the word is already out that we've got some, crazy passionate fans, and we can't wait to start playing hockey in front of them. So there's a lot of interesting things that go into the head coaching position and the opportunity. There's also been some unique challenges, right? With COVID this past year, it hasn't been a normal year. It's been a little more challenging for us to work and scout, and the season has actually been pushed back. So when we select our team on July 21st, roughly 2 months after that, we're going to roll right into training camp and followed by the season. So when we're looking for a head coach, there were certain things we wanted. We wanted somebody that had experience, sort of been a head coach in the NHL before. There's so many things going, learning the players, learning the teams, learning systems, and quite frankly, the pace of the NHL is unlike anything else. So you wanted somebody who's been through that and experienced that. We wanted somebody that had good hockey acumen, that understood systems and how to play in all three different zones. And if we had to tweak things, we could do that along the way. We wanted somebody who could communicate that message very clearly and very concisely to our players. And the last thing is we wanted to find an individual who we genuinely felt cared about the players and wanted them to reach their potential. And when we went through the interview process, the guy that we're hiring checked all of those boxes continually. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the first ever head coach of the Seattle Kraken, Dave Hakstol. We're going to watch a video first before he talks.
Dreams do come true, not only for a town and a team, but for a coach. A coach who works the hardest and deserves success. Once heralded as one of the best in college hockey, he sent countless stars to the NHL. As a coach at the junior level, he comprised a winning record. As a college coach, he comprised a winning record. And as a head coach in the NHL, he comprised a winning record before an unsatisfying ending. But now, a new beginning. A new beginning in what will become one of America's great hockey towns, with a fan base second to none. A state-of-the-art arena and training center, with a Hall of Famer as your GM. What's not to like? After a year of searching and considering, meet the right coach for the Kraken, Dave Hakstol. The Drayton Valley, Alberta native was captain at the University of North Dakota before returning to his alma mater to take the helm as coach. In all 11 seasons as head coach, UND appeared in the NCAA Championship Tournament, 2-time Conference Coach of the Year, 8-time finalist for National Coach of the Year, 7 players named Hobey Baker Award finalists, 11 players named All-American. In 2015, he became the first head coach since 1982 to jump from the collegiate level straight to the National Hockey League. As head coach, he led the Philadelphia Flyers to the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2 of his 3 seasons. In 2019, he joined the coaching staff of the Toronto Maple Leafs, focused on defense. He's known as a student of the game, a great communicator, and a coach who cares about his players. Dave, to you and your family, welcome to Seattle. To our fans, a big piece of the puzzle comes together. Next up, the expansion draft.
Wow, that's quite an awesome introduction, and and I can say, this is a dream that has come true. This is an awesome thing to be a part of, and to have the opportunity to join these two gentlemen up here today, not only here at the press conference, but as we take on the undertaking of building a hockey team from the ground up is really exciting. I couldn't be more proud to have the opportunity to be up here with Todd and Ron today. In regards to our ownership group, with Mr. David Bonderman and the entire ownership group, the vision that they have had and the execution of that vision and putting the foundation in place for this franchise, I'm quickly learning is absolutely special and spectacular. I'm going to keep my comments here at the podium quite short. One of the first opportunities that I had to come to the city of Seattle is probably nearly 25 years ago. I was a young coach in the USHL at the time, and with the USHL and the way the feeder system worked, we had what we called a protected team here in Seattle. It was the Seattle Snow Kings, so I had an opportunity to come to town to evaluate and get to know some of the young men on that team. And as I said, that was some 25 or 26 years ago. I had the opportunity to text with one of the young guys that actually came to play for us in Sioux City earlier this morning. I'm sure he had no idea why he was getting a random text from me this morning, but he's a tremendous young man and a product of the Seattle hockey community. And that was one of my first opportunities to experience the hockey community here in Seattle. So for me now to be able to come back here 25 years later in a bit of a different role, but certainly an exciting role, and to be able to have my wife, Erin, who is here in the front row, my son, Brendan, who is here, and our daughter, unfortunately, Avery, is 15 years old, is at home with friends. She had bigger and better things, but I couldn't go without saying hello to her as well. We are absolutely thrilled to be able to join the hockey community here in Seattle. We're grateful for the opportunity to become part of the Kraken organization, and we certainly look forward to becoming a part of the community here in the city of Seattle. Thank you.
Members of the media might have, and we'll open the floor to those questions.
If you guys could also please just raise your hand. We've got wireless mics on either side, so raise your hand. We'll have De'Ara and Ben hand over the microphones. We'll get through our in-person questions first, and then those of you on Zoom will go down that Zoom list as well. So, Ryan Clark.
Ron, Dave, for starters, thank you for your time. Second, let's start here. For you, Ron, what were some of the things you looked at when it came to Dave? I know there's what you talked about, but what are some of those extra things? And for you, Dave, what maybe makes this different, given that the last time you were in this situation, you had been in college, whereas if now you know the NHL a lot better and all the demands that come with it?
Yeah, so I mean, I talked about some of the things we're certainly looking for. One thing people may not know is in 2019 with Hockey Canada, I was part of the management team and Dave was part of the coaching staff. So we got to spend 4 weeks together over in Austria and Slovakia, and I got to know him as a person and kind of watch his work ethic and how he operated, and sort of building sort of that respect for what he can do. And as we went through the process, he was certainly a guy that I had interest in talking to, and we talked to him the first time last summer and then a couple times since, and just was very impressed in all the discussions we had as to the points we talked about. I think he's got the experience. It was a little bit, maybe a big jump, from college the first time, but now he's been in the league for 6 years. He's worked under some different coaches and gained a lot more experience, so we're comfortable in that regard. And I've always been comfortable with his hockey acumen, and I like the way he communicates his message, and I know he cares about his players. So all those things made it the right choice for our first hire as head coach in the Seattle Kraken organization.
Ryan, experience is valuable, and the first time around that I had the opportunity to be in this spot, had a great deal of experience, working with real good players, working with very dedicated, motivated players, working with great coaches. But I hadn't had the experience of working at the National Hockey League level. There's a different rhythm to the National Hockey League in almost every realm, from the 82 game schedule to the pace of the daily business to on ice and the pace of the game. So experience is very valuable. There are a lot of things that I solidified and were really cemented in terms of my philosophies. There are other things that where you grow, you learn, and you develop, and all of those experiences, not just over the last 6 years, all of my experience are very valuable in terms of how I apply those going forward, especially with the opportunity here to work with Ron and to work with the Kraken.
We'll have Chris next, and if you could please also just state your affiliation when you have the microphone as well, please.
Thanks, Everett. Chris Francis from Cairo 7 here in Seattle. Dave, for you, the excitement of building a team from scratch, working with Ron and his team, but also the challenge of that. Can you talk to that a little bit? And for Ron, what does he bring in terms of doing that, especially that he's worked with such a young team in Toronto and in the college game where he knows a lot of young players?
Really, I view it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, in order to be part of something that we have an opportunity to build from the ground up. Detail and communication is going to be very, very important, not only over the phase over the next few weeks of building the roster, but from there it's planning on how everything fits together. It's planning for training camp. It's preparation for the detail of not just day to day, but the minute to minute, hour to hour details that are needed in training camp to bring a group of guys together that haven't played together before. So it's a very exciting challenge. It's a very exciting opportunity.
Yeah, and I think if you go back and look at Dave's resume, starting with the USHL, sort of came in halfway through the year in a tough situation, turned that around the next 3 years. Went to North Dakota as an assistant coach and then associate coach, and then took the reins. And it was a successful program, but he added his own touches to it. And 11 years there as a head coach. 9 of those years, I think he had a winning percentage over 600, and the other 2 he had a winning percentage over 700. And that's in an environment where you're changing your team on a yearly basis, and definitely every 4 years as guys graduate and move on. So that bodes well for sort of the building and the base and be able to communicate. And then you come into the NHL and you gain that experience. And as you mentioned, he's worked the last couple of years in Toronto with a very young team and been a big part of, their sort of growth and progression towards having more and more success. So we think that all bodes well for him in this situation for us.
Right in the second row.
Hello. Hey guys, Tim Booth with the AP. Ron, you said that you first talked with Dave back in last summer. Was that sort of just informal conversations, or was that kind of the first step of this interview process with him? And then for Dave, do you have you're going to have some say on what this first team looks like when the expansion draft comes up. Do you have a preference versus if it's a young team that sort of builds and kind of fits with your experience in college and in Toronto, or would you rather have a more veteran team that might have a better chance of being successful earlier on?
Want to go first? Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I'm going to be part of part of all of the conversations, and in terms of a preference, it's really about building with good quality people to begin with, building it the right way, making sure that we're building not only a team that can come out of the gate and play with a lot of pride, passion, and have success, but also work towards building the depth of the organization for not only that early success, but to have that sustainable success. And those are the conversations that I'll be part of. There's obviously roles. My role as a coach, and I'm going to be excited to coach the roster that comes into training camp this fall.
And we, you start the process, you put together a long list of names that you think are potential candidates, and we did start doing some interviews last summer. And Dave was part of that process that we interviewed last summer, and then we had more interviews with him as we moved along throughout the process to finally making our decision.
Jeff?
Jeff Baker from the Seattle Times. For Dave, Toronto's a very analytics-minded organization, and I'm wondering how much of that trickled down to you, and how involved you were in the analytics, in working with the analytics team over there. And for Ron, just how much of an importance was that in considering Dave for the hiring, the fact that he's worked in an analytics-minded organization?
You can try and answer with two parts here. There's two pieces to it. Analytics is a phenomenal tool. It's a phenomenal tool for us as coaches to evaluate, to discover, and to find different avenues to improve our team. The second piece of that is this is still a very human game, 100%. On the ice, it's played with emotion and passion. There's all kinds of pace to it. So the combination of the two, are valuable together. I had a great chance to work with great people in Toronto on the analytics side, and also in Philadelphia on the analytics side. So I think it's a very important tool, and one that will be part of of how we grow and evaluate our hockey team. And again, I'm going to end with just never forget, this is a game that's played on emotion, and it's a human game.
And yeah, Jeff, when I was actually being interviewed for my position, that was something that came up with the ownership group. They were interested in that, thought that we should make that a part of our process as we build out our team. And I think we're very fortunate. We have Alexandra Mandricki and her team that do an excellent job for us in that regard. So certainly when we were asking the questions on the coaches, there were questions surrounding analytics, and we did that with everybody. It wasn't the only question, but it was certainly part of the process to sort of make our final decision for sure.
Right next to Jeff, yep.
Larry Stone, Seattle Times. Dave, I'm kind of interested in your journey as a coach. Even when you were playing, was coaching something that you aspired to do? And how did you get into that?
I have to be honest, it's something that I had thought about, but it was never something that was a clear-minded goal of mine. I came out of a minor league playing career, and there was an opportunity that was provided to me, a little bit unexpected, at a strange time of the year, by a former coach of mine, Gino Gasparini. He was the commissioner at the time of the USHL. It was not part of my plans for that immediate time of my life, but the opportunity arose, and as I look back on it, what an unbelievable opportunity it was to go to Sioux City and work with great people there. Everywhere you go and every step of the way, for me personally, I think for most people involved in the game, there are people that become very important in your development, not only professionally as a coach, but also life-wise. And I had that opportunity immediately in Sioux City, and every step of the way along from that point forward.
Andy, yeah.
Hi, Andy Eid from soundofhockey.com. Dave, question, you've been a coach for a long time, even in the NHL, and then you spent a couple of years now as an assistant in the NHL. Did that provide a different or a unique view of the job as being an assistant, and is there anything that you learned from that you can now add to your previous experience?
It definitely brings a different perspective. It's a different routine and rhythm within your daily organization. No question about that. But it's also a little different perspective with the players. And I don't want to make too much of that. I think everybody has their own approach, whether you're a head coach or an assistant coach with the players. But it definitely provides a little bit of a different perspective. It was a great learning opportunity. I had an opportunity to work with two outstanding coaches, with both Mike and Sheldon in Toronto, as well as the other assistant coaches that were there, and the people surrounding. So, you take a piece from every experience that you go through, and everybody that you have an opportunity to work with, whether it was, like I said, with Mike and Sheldon as an assistant coach to them, or some of the assistant coaches that I've had the great opportunity to work with. You learn a little bit, and I believe we're all pretty motivated to keep pushing the envelope and find better ways to do things, and become better in the way we can help our players be at their very best. And at the end of the day, that's our job: help our players, help our team be at the very best, and help them succeed.
We're going to open up our Zoom room in a second, but are there any other final in-person questions?
Dave, how would you describe the Philadelphia experience from your standpoint and why it didn't work out there?
First of all, it was a great experience. I had the opportunity. I've talked about people that we've had the opportunity to work with, and I can name obviously a long list of people within the organization there. Hex was phenomenal, and a ton of really good people to work with. As I look back at the experience in Philadelphia, our challenge there was really transitioning a roster to, not just a roster, but really the depth of the organization, to a younger group that would be sustainable over time from within the organization, and be able to create long-term success. And we had a lot of successes in the areas that we were working at, in terms of the transition of younger players, not only into the National Hockey League roster, but also throughout the organization. We were able to maintain the opportunity to be a playoff team 2 out of the 4 years that I was there. And bluntly, when I look back at it, I'll back up a year, 17, 18. We had a stretch, as we were injecting more and more youth into the team, and partway through it, we had a stretch run. I think it was in maybe November, late November. We went a stretch where it was difficult to win games, and it gets tough in this league when you don't win games for a while. I think we went, a stretch of close to 10 games where all we had was shootout losses and a few points to show for it. But you learn and you grow from it, and we had a great leadership group with that group. We got that leadership group together as we came on a western road swing, actually. And if I remember this correctly, that was right at the beginning of December. That group believed in themselves, they believed in what they were doing, and that rough patch turned out to be a great opportunity for development for our team. And I think that team from that point went forward nearly a 700 clip to become a playoff team. So that was a challenging stretch that turned out to be a great developmental opportunity for our team. The following year, we came to another difficult stretch, and there are foundational things that you have to be able to fall back on, and that's some of my takeaways as I look at that. We had a great opportunity for another great developmental step with an even younger team, and we weren't able to take advantage of that. So my takeaways are the details, the foundations. You can never take enough time and do enough work on those areas, so that as you hit a rough patch, you have those things to fall back on.
Any final in-person questions before we open up the Zoom room, which I think Ben will facilitate that as well.
All right, let's start things off here with Pierre LeBrun.
A question for both Dave and Ron. Dave, any thoughts on a timeline for filling out the rest of your staff? And for Ron, could you share how many candidates through all this that you ended up interviewing?
Hi, Pierre. I wouldn't be able to give you an absolute timeline. I can tell you we'll begin working on it immediately in terms of filling out the rest of the staff. There's going to be a lot of communication between Ron and myself, and I will say as soon as possible, while getting it right for our group.
Pierre, we started out the process with sort of putting a list together. We probably had, I would say, probably 50 to 100 names on the list, and then you kind of go through the process of sort of doing backgrounds and vetting out and making sure that it's someone you want to talk to. And I think at the end of the day, we actually interviewed 8 different candidates for the position, some multiple times.
Can we turn Pierre's up? Pierre, you had a follow-up there?
No, I'm happy to share and let someone else ask a question.
No, we'll go with Ryan Kennedy then.
Hi, question for Dave. When it comes to the on-ice product, I mean, every coach wants a team that works hard, but what are sort of the hallmarks of a Dave Hakstol team in your mind?
Well, there's some foundations of a team and of the game, that I certainly believe in, and these haven't changed a whole lot over time. When I look at good teams, I think you always start with character. There's an aspect of ability, and there's different levels to ability. There's the obvious on-ice skill portion that goes into that. I'm a guy that believes that work ethic is part of that ability piece. Work ethic is a skill, so that's a piece of that. For me, resiliency, as you go through an 82-game schedule and, hopefully into a playoff run, resiliency is a huge part of what our team will be about. It's not always easy, and the teams that relish those tough days and want to come back and battle together, those are the teams that have success. I've always had humility as part of the group. Humility in the right sense, really, it allows you to respect this game, and the game deserves a respect. It allows you to respect the game and just kind of clear your plate and really go out and compete. So, those are all things that are important to me. Those are some of the things that, in different ways, I'll talk about on different days. They're also, those are some of the different elements that lead us to the opportunity that we have here in terms of building tradition and being able to add to that tradition, not only on a daily and a weekly basis, but a yearly basis. So those are some of the things that are important to me.
Let's go with Darren Brown.
Hey, Dave and Ron. So I'm curious, this whole process here, we've heard tons of rumors about who the coach would end up being, and somehow we've never really heard Dave's name until this morning, despite him coming from such a crazed hockey market in Toronto. How hard was it to keep Dave out of the rumors, and what lengths did you go to keep this thing under wraps until today?
Actually, we didn't really do anything, I would think, extraordinary. We first talked with Dave last year. I mean, it's an interesting process because sometimes you talk to teams and they request that you keep it quiet. I mean, at the time, Dave is employed by Toronto, so you certainly don't want that being out there and a distraction as he's coaching, with the Leafs. So, on our end, we just had the conversations. We talked about things, and I think a lot of that credit goes to Dave. He just didn't talk about it to anybody, and when you don't do that, it doesn't get out there. So, as I said, we had multiple conversations, and it was able to be sort of kept in-house until this morning.
Erica Ayala.
Thank you all, and congratulations to you, Coach. This question will be for you, Erica Ayala with Locked On Kraken podcast. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your philosophy when it will come to building out your coaching staff. You've obviously been on coaching staffs. You've been a head coach before, but given some of the things that you said you'd like to take from your last experience, I'm just curious how you hope to build out your staff. Will you be kind of focused on what they can add to your growth and development, or vice versa?
I think there's different levels that come into play in filling out the staff, and it's a very important question. It's a very important process. There's obviously the pieces of the detail of the game and the systems of the game. When it comes down to special teams, power play, penalty kill, and different aspects in that nature. But there's also a side of helping us build the right culture, and as a staff, that's going to be something that we talk about on a daily basis. So there's a lot more to it than just the skill of, as I said, running a power play, running a penalty kill, running the D, working with the forwards day in and day out. There's that human aspect. And we want to have a complete, very well-rounded staff in that regard, and that's something that we'll work hard to, as I answered before. We want to, do it quickly, but more importantly, we want to make sure we get it right.
We have another one here from Pierre.
A question for Ron. You hear a lot about people who believe in the theory of the second chance coach, that once a coach has a second tour of duty in the NHL, that you tend to get the best out of them. How much of that philosophy played a role in you, ranking Dave highly in your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'd be lying if I didn't say we didn't consider it. I think there's a lot of examples of guys who have gotten that second chance and really taken advantage of it. I think in our discussions with Dave, sort of walking through the process and what happened in Philly and his thoughts there and what he learned, and then going to Toronto and his experiences there working under, Mike Babcock and Sheldon Keefe, and what he learned there. I mean, you just get a sense that, he's ready for that second opportunity, and it's something that certainly we factored into our final decision, but not the only things. But I don't think that hurts to have that experience and now get a second chance as you've had an opportunity to learn a little bit more over the years.
Pick it back over to Everett.
Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. We've got one more thing after this, but both, or I guess all of Todd, Dave, and Ron will be available for one-on-ones after we're done here for about a half an hour. So De'Ara, Ben, and Katie Townsend will help to facilitate those. And before we get out of here, I believe Todd has one last message for us.
One of the things we were able to do last night is to meet your great family, and an incredibly fantastic wife, a great son who volunteered to do the dishes last night, and that was super impressive. But missing is Avery, and our young friend Jenna here. Jana's been involved in a number of announcements, and she's played hockey here for a long time. We know your daughter loves the game and is playing it at a high level, and I think Jana wanted to just give her a Washington Wild sweater and welcome her to Seattle. So.
Well, thank you everyone for attending today. As I said before, all three of these gentlemen will be available for one-on-ones for about a half an hour. De'Ara, Ben, and Katie over here will help facilitate those. Coach, welcome. Hakstol family, welcome. Thank you guys so much.